Hello, this is Charles Jovi with the ledgerback Digital Commons Research Cooperative. And for this video, I'm just going to give a really quick walkthrough of the DAO Index Self-assessment Questionnaire version 0.8. You can find it on Airtable. You can also find a user guide as well on the Airtable, or you can search for Charles Jovi on Medium and find my posts about the DAO Index. As you can see here, it's on Airtable, and you can just press the use this data button, and then you should be able to have your own copy of the questionnaire and just run through it. So, in helping to understand and use the questionnaire, I'm making this walkthrough video to go along with the user guide. And hopefully it makes it a lot easier to understand the questionnaire, the DAO index, and how this can help you understand the governance and ethical practices of DAOs and give a really good basis for understanding DAOs. So without further ado, we'll get started. So here we'll start with the leftmost column. So dimension. So there are 8 dimensions for the DAO index. These 8 dimensions are what kind of bind all DAOs together. And just for clarification, and just make sure everyone knows, DAO is initialism for Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. So some people say DAO, some people say DAO. Either one, I guess, works. Depends who you ask. So when I say DAO or DAO, that's what I am referring to. And if you need a definition of a decentralized autonomous organization, please refer to the glossary table in the observatory. You can also find that one on Airtable. So here are the dimensions. So 8 dimensions. These 8 dimensions tend to bind all DAOs together, and so this really helps us look at just the governance and ethical practices of a DAO without having to worry too much about what the market activity is or the industry that's the DAO is in. And I'll get into that why a little bit later. So if you want to compare, for example, Raid Guild to bankless DAO. So Raid Guild's kind of like a service DAO, they provide software development services, and then bankless DAO as a media and a brand DAO. So they produce a lot of media, so a lot of newsletters, a lot of media campaigns. So they're pretty much in 2 different industries doing 2 different things, but since they're both DAOs, there are some commonalities among them, and so those commonalities are what we're trying to look for with these dimensions. And so on that point, which of course leads to creating a working definition of DAO for the DAO index. So working definition, and this relates to the dimensions as well for DAOs. We're really looking for just a couple of necessary elements to say, oh, this is a DAO or not. And for the most part, it's very, very, it's not too hard for any organization to fall under this definition, and that's very intentional because DAO can be really any organization can be considered DAO at some point in time. It's not the most restrictive thing. It's more of and since DAOs can do anything and everything, so that's the reason why the definition needs to allow for a very broad interpretation of what can be a DAO. So for the DAO index, a DAO is really one has to be an organization, so it's got to be a group. They've got to be trying to achieve something. Also, they have to use Web3 tools. And it doesn't need to be very extensive. It can just be, a group using a wallet together or multi-sig. That's it. It just needs to be, you just need to use some Web3 tools. It's got to be some Web3 tooling. So they could just be using Clarity just for productivity management or just work management, knowledge management or something like that. And with Clear, you can just log in with the Web3, and that's it. Like, that would still count because they're using a Web3 tool. It doesn't need to be a lot of Web3 tools. You just have to be using a Web3 tool. And then lastly, you also have to have the value orientation towards more or less Web3 in general. And so, of course, those values are pretty extensive. And so, really, when you're looking for the value orientation, you're looking for, like, are you oriented toward, like, Web3? Are they oriented something to, like, self-managed organizations, cooperatives? Like, that's, well, at least, for me, most of those values are all pretty much the same. So not too much of a difference there. And so that's where we're going to dimension of a DAO for the DAO index. And so that's where dimensions come in. So dimensions are really the, areas where you can kind of bind all DAOs together based on definition. And so this way we can look at their governance and ethical practices through these dimensions. So as I said, there are 8 dimensions. So you have broad stakeholder participation. You also have cross-border coordination. You have practicing DAO cooperativism. You have cultural patterns and brand. You have information and data transparency, DAO to DAO, social technology, and lastly, human-centered algorithmic governance. Coming on to the next dimension. Moving on to the next column. So here you have indicators. So indicators are just areas we can look for to indicate to find signs that the dimension is actually being some put into practice by the DAO. So, for broad stakeholder participation, we can just look at an indicator would be documents. So, we need to look at some of their documents to tell us, are they actually practicing broad stakeholder participation? So this kind of helps with the mapping of these dimensions to the DAO. The questions help as well, but the indicator is kind of just like where we're looking for it, and then the question helps us determine, are they actually doing the practice or not. And so you have the documents. A couple other ones. You have like economic inequality. You also have voting power. There's a good number of different types of indicators. So this way you can help understand. It's like, all right, so here this measure broad stakeholder participation, which I think it should just be self-descriptive. And so what are the ways we can tell that this mission's being actuated? And here would be those indicators. And then next column, we have elements. So the elements are just the questions. And so all of these are yes/no questions with orientation towards yes. So answering positively is good, while answering negatively is bad. So generally, we're looking for practices which kind of put these dimensions in action. And so, if you can answer positively, you're putting the dimension in action. If you answer negatively, you're not putting in action, and therefore you're not binding yourself as much to a DAO. Regarding your governance and ethical practices. So here I have a couple of different questions. A good number of them. So about 58 questions in total. And so all yes/no questions. And then moving on, here we have points and plain English. I'll explain both because they go together. So if you answer positively, so a yes will give you 100 points. If they partially answer the question, so like they're almost there, but they're not completely, that's a 50. If it's negative, that's a no, it's a 0 points. If you can't find any information on it to help answer the question, that's also a 0, because we really want to push transparency. If the question doesn't apply, that's also a 0. And then here on the plain English, you have the plain explanation, so this way you don't have to just look at the points. So this way you can just answer the question naturally. And then the explanation column, this is for you to actually provide an explanation of why you gave your response. So if I said yes to this question, an explanation would be like, all right, this is why I gave it yes. And it's the same for the rest of them. And then references, these are URLs that you use to help answer the question. Rater, this would be the person who actually answers the question. And so, this could be one or more people. So I recommend, doing this in a group of actually 2 to 10, because there are 58 questions and they can take a good amount of time. So, working as a group can really help you out there. Date added. So this is the date you answered the question, because of course, you'll have DAO for information or data is also somewhat in real time. So they're also constantly making updates. So we need to know the dates that you actually answered, and then the confidence interval from 0 to 10. This just tells us how confident are you in your response from 0 to 10. 10 being most confident, 0 being least confident. I'm not sure I'll keep this one in the next version of the questionnaire, but it's in this one. So that's the Self-assessment Questionnaire version 0.8. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please send an email to ledgerback@gmail.com or send me a message on Twitter. You can just direct message me at CADJOVU or send a DM to @ledgerback. Either one works. And so that's it for this walkthrough. Hopefully this helps you understand the questionnaire and kind of get an idea of how to use it to answer things. Also refer to the user guide as well. Actually, sorry, I should actually also mention regarding the scoring. So I said there are points, and then if you come here all the way to the bottom, here you'll see a total. So the total amount of points you can get for this version of the question is 5,800. So everything's out 5,800, and then the score, that's just totaling all the points. So maximum 5,800 percentage. Of course, that's the score divided by the total, and so that's the score that we're looking at to compare how DAOs are performing on the questionnaire. And then we also do have dimensional scores as well. So there's 8 different since there's 8 dimensions, there's 8 dimensional scores, and then there's of course a total score. And so here, as you can see, there's also miscellaneous area. And so if you want to add the dimension, please go on ahead. Or if you want to add a couple extra questions because you think they're really important and they're not mentioned already in the questionnaire, please do as well. And then please send it over to me, so I can take a look and see what I should add the question to the official questionnaire for a new version to update it. Because there's always a lot of stuff going on about DAOs and just organizational science and in general. I actually should have mentioned as well that the dimensions and the DAO definition helps connect to just organizational science in general. So if you need to get background information to help you understand the DAO Index, please take a look at DAO Index Reader Quiz. About just 10 to 12 questions, just providing basic background. It's very simple. You provide the reference for all the questions, so you can just answer it right away. I just want you to know the basics, and you can kind of go from there. And if you have any questions about how to respond to any of the questions, or how to interpret a DAO's documentation or their data sources, send a question to me. Also, I've got just check out the error table for the DAO Index in general, but it's also the data sources there, so you can just find the data sources. You'll also find them in the user guide. So this one a little bit longer than I wanted, but anyway, thanks for listening. Hopefully you find this helpful, and if you have any questions, once again, just send me a message at on Twitter at CADJOVU. You can just DM me or send an email to ledgerback@gmail.com, or head up ledgerback on Twitter at ledgerback. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.